The purpose of knowledge is to not know. So it sounds crazy, it sounds oxymoronic, it sounds counterintuitive. The purpose of knowledge is not to know. What in the world did I just say? Is that clickbait? Am I trying to hit an algorithm? Am I trying to say something rash and radical because that's when people listen? Well, that's not really what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to teach lessons that have truth and value. And hopefully, in the next few minutes, we'll unpack what in the world that means. The point of knowledge, the purpose of knowledge is not to know. It's not something that I made up. It's a quote from Rabbi Nachman. Even earlier, it's a quote from Rabbi Yedaya Hapanini. The Shla mentions it. Many Sfarim mention this concept. Tachlis Hayadia Shaloneda. The function, the purpose of knowledge is to not know. So much so, Rabbi Nachman says, well, rephrase it a little bit different. Tachlis hayadia asher lo neda. The purpose of knowledge is not to know. In Sichus Aran, Rabbi Nachman explains, V'gam, mash muva ki tachlis hayadia shelo neda. That which it says, that which we are taught. The point of knowledge is to not know. Hainu, that is, gam kain eitzel kol yediyah v'yediyah. This is true by every single knowledge, by every idea, by every knowledge that a person attains. Even when you get to the tachlis of knowing, which is not to know, even when you get there, you're still not quite there because you still don't know. And that's really the point. Because you only reach the tachlis according to the knowledge that you have, but there's a higher level of knowledge that you didn't even touch yet because you're at the peak of your knowledge, but there's higher levels of knowledge above that which you haven't even touched yet, which means that the point of knowledge is to get to point ashalonida, to get to the point that we don't know, to get to the point where we realize that, oh my gosh, as much as I do know, which is great and should be celebrated, of course, but there's so much more left to do. There's so much more left to study. There's so much more that I don't know. Only Hashem is Yodei HaKol. Only Hashem, truthfully, can know everything. But us, we have to have the humility to be able to realize, wait a second, lo neda, we don't know. In fact, we just came from Purim. The avodah of Purim was, right, to get to a point of lo yada, to get to a point of not knowing. Moshe came down from the mountain, and it says what? Lo yada. Moshe lo yada. Moshe did not know that his face was shining. He got to a point that he didn't know. Yaakovinu says, Hashem is in this place, ve'anochi lo yadati. I didn't know. He got to a level of lo yadati, and it was there that Achen Yesh Hashem, that's where Hashem resided. In the humility. When a person says, I know, when a person says, I'm finished, when a person says, I'm done, my work here is done because I know everything about this and that's it, well, that's Gaiva. That is ego. That is Gaiva. And there Hashem can't reside because Hashem and a haughty person can't reside in the same place, Chazal say. It's specifically lo neda, specifically getting to a point de lo yada, ad lo yada, like Moshe lo yada. But Yavinu lo yadati, it's specifically in that realm of humility, when a person is still learning, that's where you find HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's where you find Hashem. I'll give you a proof to this. Moshe Rabbeinu, the greatest prophet, the greatest Jewish leader, what does it say? It says at the end of the Torah, it says, Moshe says, right, Atachi losa, you've only begun to show me your greatness, Hashem. You've only begun to show me? Moshe Rabbeinu saying, you've only begun to show me? What does that even mean? Moshe witnessed the greatest of the great. Correct. But as much as he knew nothing, Klape HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. As much as he knew, he achieved that level, Tachlis Hayadiyah Shelo Neda. He got to a level where he realized how much he doesn't know. That's a growing person. That's a humble person. That's a Yid. So, in the Declaration of Independence, it says, this is one of the most famous lines. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And these famous words written in the Declaration of Independence by Thomas Jefferson, the pursuit of happiness, where does he get that from? These for over 200 years, the Americans have been pounding this line, living by this, right? Ironically and sadly, studies have shown that only around 33%, one third of every American, actually says they're happy. So it's in the Declaration of Independence, which means it's one of the American ideals, the pursuit of happiness, but something's off, something's not working. Where did Jefferson get this from? Jefferson, actually, who included it in the Declaration, got it from John Locke. John Locke was a major English philosopher who lived in the 1600s to early 1700s, and he's the one who's given the credit to coin that phrase. He coined that phrase of the pursuit of happiness. But, if only 33% of Americans are truly happy, then wouldn't you say something's off? Maybe something's off with this whole idea of pursuit of happiness. And that's because something is off. You see, people try to pursue happiness. It's like a mouse on a wheel. Well, the mouse will never outrun the wheel. It's impossible. If you try to chase happiness and try to fill a void, well, you'll never get it. Because happiness is not something to pursue. Happiness is something that needs to ensue, right? Happiness comes from the pursuit itself. Not pursuing happiness. When you try to pursue happiness, you try to fill it in with X, Y, or Z, things that don't end up working out, right? People go shopping, people have immoral relationships, people use food. People try to fill voids, emptiness, but they're chasing that void. They're chasing something. They're trying to pursue something that they'll never actually catch. Because it's not the pursuit of happiness that creates happiness. It's the happiness of pursuit that instills happiness. Happiness is something we already have. It's something that's already within us. Chazal tell us that, right? It's brought down that Besimcha is osios b'machshava, right? Happiness and machshava, the mind. It's already there. People try to travel and go on this vacation to this state and that state, realizing or forgetting that happiness is really a state of mind. You may have heard that quote before. Happiness is already inside, and it's not something we have to pursue. It's something that has to ensue by living with pursuit, right? So it's not the pursuit of happiness, it's the happiness of pursuit. What does that mean, the happiness of pursuit? Pursuit means you're on a journey. Pursuit means you're not quite there yet. Pursuit means you're living life with humility that lo neda, I don't know. There's a lot that I don't know, and therefore I need to explore. If somebody feels that they peaked, if somebody feels that they made it to the top, in any limud, they're done, they're finished. If somebody feels that they peaked, they made it to the top of their relationship with their spouse, then that's it. What is there more to do? If somebody feels that they peaked in their level of understanding their children, well, then what? A person has to always feel that he's just entering the mountain. He's just starting to climb. He's in the realm of lo neda. He's the realm of tachlis hayediyah shelo neda. He's lo yadati. I don't know. Imagine if a person approached his davening like that. There's so much about this that I don't know. Imagine what feeling and fervor he'd come to experience. Imagine if a person looked outside in the morning and he saw the sun and he saw the clouds and the birds. And he looked at it with a level of wonder and curiosity, a level of there's so much that I don't know, right? That childlike wonder, right? Why children are so much happier? They have that wonder and curiosity about them. They ask questions because there's so much that they don't know, and therefore they're able to learn so much. If we had that wonder and that curiosity when we approached our relationship with our spouse, there's so much about this person that I don't know yet, and that's okay. That's beautiful. That's why we're here. We're going to explore that. There's so much about my child that I just don't know yet. And that's amazing. That's beautiful. There's so much about my relationship with Hashem that I just don't know yet. I haven't gotten there yet. That's amazing. That's humility. That's the tachlis hayadiyah shelo neda. To get to that point where we don't know, to have that humility to say, there's so much I don't know. Wow, what a level to attain. So my friends, it's not the pursuit of happiness, and it hasn't been working. It's the happiness of pursuit. We have to be pursuing something. We have to be on a journey to be able to live with that childlike wonder, curiosity, to ask questions, to be able to say, I don't know. It's such a beautiful thing. And, this week's Parsha is Parshas, well, one of the highlights of this is Parshas Vayakel, but I want to really reference an idea from Parshas Para. Paraduma was something that Shlomo HaMelech, the wisest of all men, right? He said, Chachma, Yerachok mimeni, it's far from me. He didn't know. He didn't know. That's this point. Rabbi Nachman says that's this point. Why wisdom is not knowledge, is not what you know, it's realizing how much you don't know. And Shlomo HaMelech tapped into that, right? He thought about the Paraduma. He realized that, oh my gosh, he cannot understand it. And he said, Rachok mimeni. That's true wisdom, when you can say, oh my gosh, there's so much about this that I don't know. The mystics, the Kabbalists, they look at the word chachma, wisdom, as a compound word of kayachma, the power of what? The power of what? Asking questions? What does it have to do with wisdom? Wisdom is knowledge, it's information, right? No. Wisdom is realizing how much you don't know. Wisdom is asking questions. Wisdom is living with the childlike wonder and curiosity. Wisdom is koachma. Chachma is koachma. The power of what? The power to ask questions, the power to be curious, the power to wonder, the power to have the humility to say, I don't know. And therefore, and I'm going to, right? I'm going to learn about this Gemara more. I'm going to learn about this topic more. I'm going to learn about this person more. I'm not going to judge this person because lo yadati, I don't know his full situation. I don't know her full circumstance. I don't know my child's full, and therefore I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to inquire. I'm going to approach it with humility. In the Sefer Chashva L'Tova from the Alexander Rebbe, it's a beautiful, beautiful vart on the Paraduma. The Paraduma, we know that the Zohar tells us that all mitzvos are eitzos. They're eaten. They're advice, pieces of advice. And he wonders, well, l'chayra, you have to know what's the mitzvah paraduma, which is the quintessential chok, which means we don't know it. It's unexplainable. How is that advice? How is there, right? If it's true, like the Zohar says, that all mitzvos are advice, then how do you have a piece of advice that is not explainable? How do you, what advice is the paraduma offering if it's a chok? And he says, because therein lies the advice. This is exactly what the advice of this particular mitzvah of paraduma is. Leida, to know, and to understand, to know and to understand that we don't really know and we don't fully grasp. The primary function and the primary purpose of knowledge is to know that we don't know. The more that we know that we don't know, the more das we are going to attain. And so therefore the Alexander Rebbe says that's really the advice that the paraduma is offering us. The paraduma, which is the chok, which is unexplainable. We don't understand it. The advice that it's telling us is that it's okay not to know. It's actually good not to know. You're supposed to get to a point where you don't know. That's humility. That's when growth comes in. When we experience happiness is when we're on the pursuit. It's the happiness of the pursuit, not the pursuit of happiness. Because when we're on the pursuit and we're asking questions and we're living with that childlike wonder, then happiness will automatically, it will just ensue. It will come because it's b'machshava. It's already inside of us, right? Sometimes people think that to get fulfillment, you need to be full. So they try to fill themselves up with this or that. But really, fulfillment, ironically, comes from being hungry. Fulfillment doesn't come from being full. Fulfillment comes from being hungry. Fulfillment comes when you're pursuing something, when you're asking questions, when you live with that wonder, when we approach that world from the paraduma perspective, that there's so much that we don't know. Like Shlomo Melech said, it's distant from me. It's distant from me. Then that's a great. Then greatness can really come in. Happiness will ensue. You'll start to live with a sense of fervor. You'll live with that childlike wonder and excitement. Children don't walk from place to place. They're always running because they have wonder, they have excitement. And just to finish this off on this topic, on this idea related to the paraduma, and it teaching us this lesson of tachlis idea shalom neda. The Kedushas Levi says that we know the paraduma was mitar tmeim and the same ashes were mitame the tahorim. How could one thing right work two functions like that? And the Kedushas Levi says that you have to read it like this. What does it mean that it's mitame tahorim? What does that mean? Somebody who views themselves as mitame, somebody who views himself as quote unquote impure, in the sense that lo yeda, there's so much that he doesn't know. That's the sign, that's the true sign of someone who's tahor, someone who's pure. But somebody who's mitayr, somebody who says I'm pure, somebody who says I'm good, I'm fine where I am, then that's mitayr tameim. That person is really tame. That person is an egotistical type of person. That person is not going to grow. So he reads that beautifully within the context of what the paraduma is able to accomplish. Tachlis hayadiyah shlonida. Let's get to a point where we don't know. Let's get to a point where we're asking questions, where we're looking at the world with that childlike wonder and curiosity, to ask questions, to be able to have that humility. And when we approach our personal lives like that, when we approach our tefillah like that, our learning like that, our relationship with our spouses, with our children, with our family, and with our friends, well, happiness will just ensue because we're going to be on that journey. We're going to be able to experience the happiness of the pursuit itself. My friends, I wish you good luck on this journey. As we're on this together, let's get to a point where we don't know. And that's the most beautiful thing, to not know. All the best. Have a fantastic Shabbos. Mir Hashem. We'll see you next time.